Hello. During last winter, I made lots of plans for videos that I was going to be creating throughout the summer. And then the travel restrictions applied, and so I haven't been able to go off and see the people I wanted to see, to show you the gardens I wanted to show you. And the first of those visits was to be to Tim and Maddy Harland from Permaculture magazine, to have a look at their absolutely amazing forest garden. In particular, looking at how they use wildflowers. So Maddy and Tim have really kindly filmed the following, and then I'll show you how I implement some of those ideas here at Byther Farm.
Hello, I'm Tim Harland.
And I'm Maddy Harland, and we're from Permaculture magazine. Liz asked us if we'd make a film about our garden, because we have a wildlife garden that's also really productive. So it's a combination of a permaculture site and also somewhere where we encourage as much wilderness and wildlife into the garden as we possibly can.
Back in 1990, when we first acquired this piece of land, which is right at the back of our house, it was just a heavily ploughed arable field, and there was nothing in it apart from chalk and flint, very little soil, and absolutely devoid of any kind of life. There wasn't an earthworm in sight. So we actually at the time wanted to create a wildlife garden, but then along came a permaculture film on Channel 4 called In Grave Danger of Falling Food, all about Bill Mollison and the permaculture concept, and we thought, well, why not have a wildlife garden that produces a lot of food? So that's what we set about designing, and what you see today is the sum total of 30 years of work.
So we've got different areas. We've got a no-dig vegetable garden, we've got a forest garden area, we have a spring meadow which is full of obviously early season spring flowers, and then we have a main summer meadow which is different species, and also we have around the site hedgerows which are mainly native species, but we do have some exotic standards mixed up in them as well, and some wildlife standards too, like it's a wild service tree, Sorbus torminalis. So we've got a mixture of habitats, and what this means is that our garden is totally unsprayed, utterly organic. We have no pests and diseases on our fruit trees because we have pest predator balance working well. In the vegetable patch, obviously we have a few slugs, like because we live in the UK, but mainly it's pretty much in balance now. And we think that's due to the fact that we have lots and lots of frogs, toads, slow worms, and we even have common lizards, which are not common in our part of Hampshire. And we encourage all of these by having lots of little ponds dotted around the site, and these partly provide drinking stations for bees and other insects and birds, and they're also breeding ponds for amphibians as well. So we're going to show you around. This is the spring meadow, so most of the flowers peak early in the year, and we start the year with snowdrops, and then the cowslips come through. They're just setting seed now, and if you look at this funny little thing, this is what we call a prim slip. It's a red primula that's crossed with a native cowslip. There's also mouse-ear hawkbit here, and we also have some narcissi, lots and lots of our native ground cover, which is marjoram, which will flower later. We also have a bit of wild border terrier who occasionally adds her voice, tons of buttercups and snake's head fritillary. There is even some, remind me what it is, Tim. It is lily of the valley has snuck in here. So it's unbelievably abundant. It is an early source of nectar, which is particularly useful for our honeybees, but the bumblebees love the cowslips as well, and many other types of things like ichneumon wasps and other types of bees and flies. And it's great habitat for frogs, and very near our vegetable garden. So we like to encourage this long grass to act as a habitat and invite in those useful species that eat slugs.
And here in the upper 2/3 of the garden, right in the heart of the garden, is our summer meadow. It's absolutely full of biodiversity. So many different flowers and species of grasses. The oxeye daisies are just about to come out. We have yellow rattle, scabious, hawkweed, knapweed, all manner of things, and this is the very heart of the garden. Indeed, for the first time ever, just where that stick is marking it, we even have our first early purple orchid, which has just turned up. So this is the beating heart of the garden. This is a representative of what is at the core, the biodiversity, which, as Maddy said earlier, brings in the predators for the pests, and helps create a balance. There are many other aspects to the garden as well that do similar, but this really is our number one love.
I'm standing in one area of the garden that is forest garden. This is a combination of trees, tall trees. Right up at the top is a very large walnut. Lower down there's Siberian pea tree, apple trees. Right behind me is it's not a Szechuan pepper. It is a Szechuan pepper. It's not a Nepalese pepper, and that's just about to come into flower. And then below that are lots of different soft fruit, different types of gooseberry and red, white and black currants. And then there is a lower layer which is flowers and herbs. There's a lot of mint here which flowers later, that provides a lovely nectar source for insects. A little bit of comfrey around plants that we do as cut and come again mulch for the trees as our own homegrown fertiliser, and it is an absolute abundance. It's beautiful, it provides lots and lots of fruit for us, herbs and again wildlife habitat. So forest gardening is all about filling the niches from the top canopy all the way down to the ground. And as we diversify it over the years, we will add to the perennials and have more and more perennial vegetables in here as well. This is towards the end of the garden, with the walnut tree right in the background. That's really our wild edge that we try not to do very much management in at all. And as you can see, we have the apiary up here as far away from the house as possible. And today it's a particularly busy day. The sun's out, the apple blossom is fully out all over the garden. We've got blossom from the Siberian pea tree and lots and lots of flower blossom as well. And it's just buzzing with life, and we love our honeybees.
So this garden is a sanctuary to many creatures, including us. And this is our favourite sit spot, and we love to come here and just look at the whole garden, watch the birds fly over, the sparrowhawks, the goldfinches, the swallows and the kites. We're very, very lucky to have this space, to be able to just sit and be.
We're leaving areas to just grow naturally, so we've got stinging nettles and several different types of grasses, hogweed. Now that's not a giant hogweed, so it's an ordinary hogweed. There are thistles. I have planted some comfrey in here. This is bocking 14, so it won't seed itself everywhere, but it's great for adding to compost heaps, for making feed from, and just doing a chop and drop, so just cutting it down and leaving it around plants, and as it breaks down it will feed them. There's buttercups coming through here, there's white clover and red clover. I'm really pleased. There's a whole mishmash of plants. The only things I'm not really wild about are the blackberries that are coming through from next door's field, so we do keep those cut back. But I'm really pleased that there's a small area here. It's goes the length of the polytunnel and a bit more, that we're just leaving to do its own thing. I also plan to sprinkle a few cornflowers and poppy seeds in here, just to add to a bit of colour. But I am really pleased with how this is looking, how it's developing, how things are intermingling, and how much wildlife there is around this corner of our garden. This is a view across our food forest that you don't see very often, because I don't put the camera there very often, but got a selection of fruit trees and herbs and fruiting bushes. So things like the cherry, there's a white currant there, the Lycisteria formosa, so that's a pheasant berry, and more currants and damsons. And growing across the fences there are things like tayberries and loganberries, and very soon this area that I'm actually walking in will have squashes growing on it. But it's this area that has more of the permanent planting in it. It's got the fruit trees that will eventually be the top story. It's got large shrubs and herbaceous perennials. It's got things that are scrambling across the floor. And it's that layering, the replication of woodland or forest gardening that I've really tried to achieve here. And it's getting there. It's going to take time. You know, a forest or a wood doesn't grow overnight. It's about 3.5 years since I started planting the food forest. I'm really pleased with how mature it looks, how productive it is, and how little work it is. And that's one of the most appealing things. If you've enjoyed having a look at Maddy and Tim's garden, please go and check out some more of their videos. Have a look at their YouTube channel, Permaculture magazine. I've learnt so much from their channel about permaculture, gardening, and also just a kinder perspective on the world. So I'll leave a link to Permaculture magazine's channel on the screen and in the information below. And I encourage you to go over, have a look and subscribe. And so, wherever you are in the world and whatever you've got planned for today, I hope it's a good one. And I also hope you'll join me again next time.